Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome into the Free Money Show week 5. Coming off of a rough week, going 1-4, but kind of due for that after going 4-1 in back to back weeks. So we are now plus 3.62 units on the show after week 4 and 11-8 on the year. So, quick recap: Colorado State and Iowa stayed slightly under the total, unfortunately. Both teams had opportunities to score late, were unable to do so, and thank goodness for Notre Dame money line on Saturday beating Wisconsin. That kind of helped us with plus 180, so plus 1.8 units for us there. Utah was a loser. They were bad. And then South Carolina and Michigan State both had chances late. Unfortunately, did not work out for us as we lost. And like I mentioned, 1-4 on the week, and we are now plus 3.62 units on the show. So let's get right into it here. We got 5 picks again this week for week 5. I'm going to try to be a little bit more brief here. So let's start off with Texas A&M -7 at home, taking on Mississippi State. A&M -7 is the play here. Texas A&M looking to rebound after a loss to the Razorbacks last weekend. 9.2 points per game allowed. Third down conversion for opponents 32.26 and 291.5 yards allowed total for the A&M defense. That is their strength. Jimbo Fisher coaches them up on defense, especially being in the SEC. They have to do so. And I don't trust Mike Leach and his offense versus the SEC opponents. Didn't do too well last year. This year has kind of followed suit. Hasn't been the greatest on the offensive side of the ball. Mike Leach in SEC road games last year scored 12.5 points per game, and going into A&M this weekend might be more of the same. A&M, like I mentioned, looking to rebound after the Arkansas loss, win at home in front of the fans, and get the first SEC win of the year. And in the 2 years since Jimbo has gotten his own recruiting classes in, he has covered the spread versus Mississippi State in 2 games. He will do it again this weekend. A&M -7 is a very generous number here. But like I mentioned, Jimbo Fisher has a better defense than Mike Leach has offense, and the home field advantage for Texas A&M -7 will be strong, and that will be the play for A&M and Mississippi State this weekend. Okay, pick number 2, we're going over to the Pac-12 and Stanford +8 taking on Oregon, the 12:30 game on ABC. Now, Stanford stayed really close with UCLA last week and probably should have covered the number last week. They have another chance versus the Pac-12 opponent this week. David Shaw clearly plays for the spread. Last weekend, if they hit the field goal, they would have covered. It was like a 59-yarder, I think, some crazy number. So we got that on our side. So that should help for the +8 here. And Stanford returns home after a 2-week road trip and the first Pac-12 home game of the season. And they themselves can get the first Pac-12 win of the year. Now, Oregon played decent. Not great. They played great in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, the game with Arizona was pretty close. The fourth quarter, they went off for 17 points and kind of blew it out of the water there. But it was a lot closer than it should have been. Oregon has great wins versus Ohio State and a couple others, Fresno State, but this is a spot I think they may be in trouble in here. +8 is a good number for Stanford. Now, Oregon does okay versus the pass. Turnovers is kind of where they thrive, but for passing yards allowed, 300 passing yards allowed. And the turnovers, as I mentioned, is where they thrive. That's when they get the ball and pounce on you. Tanner McKee, quarterback for Stanford, has done well on the season. No interceptions. That has to be the same here on Saturday. Stanford cannot turn the ball over, or they will be behind the 8 ball here. He's done a good job of it, so if we can get more of that, we should be okay. Oregon feasts on turnovers, averaging 3 a game, which is pretty crazy. So 0 would be best case scenario, obviously. But Stanford has to maintain the course, be smart with the football. If they do so, that +8 is definitely within range for us. And they may even sneaky keep it close with Oregon late, as Oregon likes to keep it kind of close in the second half. Stanford +8 is the play when they play Oregon this weekend. Now we move on to my favorite play of the weekend, Army -9 taking on Ball State. This game is just a severe mismatch here. Army is good. They can run the ball, they can score points. Ball State is not. They cannot score points and don't play well. Army -9, the triple option. The kids at Ball State have rarely seen this. They don't have the talent, the speed, athleticism to keep up with Army here. -9 is a great number. Army's averaging 39 points per game, 12th best in the country, and allowing 19, 25th best in the country themselves. Ball State, on the other hand, allows 37 points per game and scores a measly 12. Not a recipe for success here. Army will just bully Ball State on both sides of the ball. I just think Ball State will kind of just quit, especially in the second half. They're not going to keep it close. The only thing going for Ball State is that they are at home playing in front of the fans. Other than that, nothing really going for them. They got demolished by Penn State 44-13 in week 2, and the only game they stayed close and won was against a D2 team. So not good for Ball State. Ball State fans look away. They allowed 229 rushing yards, and that's all that Army does. So not going to be good, but great for us when we're taking the Army -9. Back the Knights here, and you should cash the ticket. Okay, for pick number 4, going to the Big 12, Kansas State +11.5 at home, taking on Oklahoma Sooners and Spencer Rattler. Kansas State comes into this game a little banged up with the quarterback situation and coming off of a loss. Starting QB Skylar Thompson is likely out. I've heard rumblings there's a possibility he plays. That would be great for us and the spread here of 11.5. So K-State may have to rely on the backups, Jaron Lewis and Will Howard. Not the greatest options. They kind of split time, and we're struggling against Oklahoma State. So Deuce Vaughn will be elevated to the main role of the offense here because Oklahoma knows the quarterbacks may not be the main option, and K-State will have to rely on that. He had a rough game last week, so this is a bounce back opportunity for him here. Now, Kleiman, a positive for us. Coach Kleiman of Kansas State has not lost to Lincoln Riley and Oklahoma. They are the only team in the Big 12 with an active win streak versus the Oklahoma Sooners. But hey, we don't need them to win the game here. We just need them 11.5, and I think that the Wildcats have a good possibility of covering this number here. Oh, you can stop the run for sure, but they haven't been able to generate much offense themselves. They have 124 rushing yards per game, 84th best in the country, and 261.3 passing, 42nd best. Not the numbers that Oklahoma is used to. I think kind of everyone on that team kind of has a low morale at the moment. They are winning these games. They are undefeated, but it's not by much. I don't think there's much the team can sit back on and say they're doing well at the moment. And K-State at home in front of the fans, it's always been a tough place to play from the days of Bill Snyder to now Kleiman. K-State has a good shot in this game. 11.5 is a great number. Rattler looks shaky. He was the Heisman favorite a couple weeks ago, but after being booed at home, they are a little vulnerable here. Rattler doesn't look great, which is good news for us and the K-State faithful. Now, I love K-State in the points here. Kleiman will coach him up, and Oklahoma doesn't look that great, so got a good possibility here of +11.5 Kansas State Wildcats. Now, finishing off the Saturday card here, pick number 5, going back to the SEC, Kentucky Wildcats +7.5 at home, taking on number 10 Florida Gators. Now, Kentucky is undefeated. They keep plugging along, keep on winning games. South Carolina game was an ugly one for anyone that watched that last weekend. Florida, 2 weeks ago, had a heartbreaking loss to Bama, bounce back versus Tennessee. But Kentucky has a good shot to go 5-0 here possibly. Kentucky can put up points and play defense. 32 points per game for the Wildcats and 16 allowed. Florida may face a little adversity with that. Kentucky loves to run the ball. They run it well, as most teams in the SEC do. 238 rushing yards, 12th best in the country. Something to like here for the +7.5. but the turnovers have to be decreased. Last weekend, too many fumbles. A better team than South Carolina would have beaten Kentucky, so those have to be decreased, especially against a good team like Florida here. Now, weakness of Florida on offense is the red zone scoring. Kentucky has to keep that if they want to cover the 7.5 for us here and possibly win the game. They allow a lot of passing yards. Florida does as well. So Kentucky would be keen to focus on that a little bit, kind of mix it up. Will Levis isn't horrible. Not horrible. Did a 75th best in the country for Florida. Not numbers of a top 10 team. So that is an area that the Wildcats will have to focus on here. I just love the KU defense at home. They seem to play a lot better, as most teams do at home here. Kansas State, if y'all want to sprinkle the money line, I can see it. I would support that as well. And last time these teams played, last season, Kentucky got ran off the field. Wasn't great. Bad Saturday. The players that were on Kentucky last year will definitely remember that, as will Bob Stoops. Love the 7.5 here for Kentucky Wildcats. Okay, so recap real quick. 5 picks here this weekend. Pick number 1, Texas A&M -7 taking on Mississippi State at home. Pick number 2, Stanford +8 taking on Oregon, the 12:30 early afternoon game for the Pac-12 battle here. Pick number 3, Army -9 playing Ball State. It's going to be just a bloodbath for Army. They're going to run it up early and often. Pick number 4, K-State +11.5, Kansas State that is, taking on Oklahoma in a Big 12 matchup. And I think Casey's going to keep it close for the entire game. Pick number 5, Kentucky Wildcats +7.5. Kentucky at home taking on the number 10 team. Taking the points. Love the games this weekend. Like, comment, subscribe, everything that you guys all know that by now. Thank you. See y'all tomorrow.